We made it to the end of another week. It is once again Friday, so before I sign off for the weekend, let's go over all of the headlines that came out of the NFC North this past week. It is once again time for Weekly North News. All right, everyone. Hello and welcome into the 21st edition of this series called Weekly North News. And for this episode, I'm wearing the world's most uncomfortable Vikings hat. It's a snapback trucker style hat. And you know how normally you have one of these hats and it's like 2 or 3 of the little snaps that are, good enough for that thing back there. This is on a 1. This hat has just gotten so small. I don't know. I don't know why I bought it. It was on sale. I like the design. It's pretty neat, but it's too small. I think I'm going to have to retire it eventually. So I'll try to get it into a few more episodes before I put it out to pasture. Anyway, we're not here to talk about my Vikings hat collection. We're here to talk about the headlines that came out of the NFC North division this past week. We're going to do the traditional format, one headline for each team. We'll try to keep this brief for the next few weeks because there's just not going to be a lot to talk about unless something happens. So let's go over what we have for this week, and then I will see you again on Monday. So for the Green Bay Packers, they're going to take the top spot for this week, and according to Davante Adams, the Aaron Rodgers situation is not something that Packers players are currently talking about, and it kind of makes sense, and he pitches, a good batch of reasons for why this is the case. So they're not sweating the situation. Everyone is kind of dialed into their own job right now. They just came off of OTAs, mandatory mini camp. They've got training camp looming in a couple of weeks. Everybody's sort of focused on the get ready for the season mentality, regardless of who else is participating. So that seems to be where they're going. He also said this. I thought this was an interesting piece of information. Davante Adams says, quote, "I think everybody's mindset, everybody is going to love Aaron the same way when he returns. And there hasn't been any negative talk, and everyone's behind him." So we've sort of known some of that for a while now, that everybody has Aaron Rodgers back, and Davante Adams himself has expressly said so. The interesting part of that quote is that where he says everybody's going to love Aaron the same way when he returns. That sort of language implicitly implies that they believe, or at least they believe, that Aaron believes that he is going to return to this team at some point. I'm still 50-50. It was really going to be difficult for the Packers to sort of mend this relationship. There's still ways that I believe that they can do it. But I have to see some concrete evidence that this relationship is swinging in one direction or the other before I can really make any sort of, educated guess about what the future holds for Aaron Rodgers as far as being a member of the Green Bay Packers. The most recent trade rumor I saw, just as an aside, was the Washington football team, which I think would be pretty wild. But, I'm kind of rooting for Ryan Fitzpatrick this year, so I hope that doesn't happen, even though I want Aaron Rodgers out of the division. Sorry, Packers fans, that's just the truth. So Davante Adams pretty much, says that the players can't do anything about the situation. It's out of their control, so why worry about it? So that is where the Packers players stand as of right now on the Aaron Rodgers situation, according to Davante Adams. Moving on to our second headline and our second team of this week, it's the Minnesota Vikings, and the question was raised yesterday. Should the Vikings sign David Castro? So if you're unfamiliar with the situation, the Pittsburgh Steelers released David Castro, freeing up, I think, $7 or $8 million in the cap space for them, and then they turn around the next day and sign Trey Turner, somebody who was actually a free agent that we as Vikings fans were looking at as a potential solution to the barren void that was the guard position this past offseason. But he goes with Pittsburgh. David DeCastro is now a free agent, and there was some speculation about him going to another team where he could potentially land. And I think we as Vikings fans are just so jaded about the guard position that anytime a proven veteran, Pro Bowl guard, whatever, adjective you want to put on them, we're just like, yeah, okay, this is an upgrade, because everything's an upgrade when you have Dakota Doja, right? It's not something that's really up for debate. It's just anybody with a pulse who scored a little bit better at PFF's grades is better than Dakota Doja. So, but unfortunately, that's probably not going to be the case. The short answer to this question is no. David Castro has an ankle problem, and he's likely going to retire. So I think this is a non-starter for anybody, and especially the Minnesota Vikings, who seem to be set at the guard position. They seem pretty content with Dakota Dozier coming back, and they have Ezra Cleveland, who will move to the left side, and Wyatt Davis, their third-round pick from this previous draft. So no David DeCastro for the Vikings. That's not going to happen. All right, moving on to our third headline and team of the week, we have the Detroit Lions. Their headline of the week is, what player is the face of the Detroit Lions right now? So I read this, and it's like not really like a news headline. This is sort of like an opinion piece, but at the same time, this is an interesting question because Matthew Stafford is gone. He's been the face of the franchise for a number of years. You probably could have argued back in the day it was maybe Calvin Johnson had some claim to this title. But as far as the face of the franchise go, who is it with this team in complete rebuild mode, hitting the reset button, losing Kenny Golladay? There's not a lot of options when you really look around the roster about who is going to be, the fan favorite, the face of the franchise. So the article suggests a couple of names. First, they go with Dan Campbell, the head coach, which I guess from, a media circus perspective, and that's not a criticism, that's just a comment. From that perspective, Dan Campbell kind of is the face of the franchise right now, just because of his interviews. The article also mentioned like Frank Ragnow and TJ Hawkinson, I could sort of see, that would make sense to me if we're going for players only and not coaches. The big question that I have is, and Lions fans can let me know if they watch this, is what's it going to take to win for Jared Goff to win you over? Coming from the Los Angeles Rams, where I think that team said all the right things about him, but I think secretly they were dying to get rid of him and move on to something else because he was not incapable of executing the Sean McVay offense, but I think that they saw that there was better options that they could explore. Jared Goff has been sort of the target of a lot of criticism of being a quarterback who seems to be stuck in neutral. So what would it take for Jared Goff to win over the fans of Detroit? I'm not sure, but I'm not even sure he could really do it, especially with the supporting cast he has now. Another name I'd be interested in seeing if he could break out this year would be DeAndre Swift, because I think he was underutilized last year, and I'm not really sure what their philosophy is with the running back situation at all, given who they have on the roster. But that's just another name I would keep out. But I think Hawkinson would probably be the favorite if we're talking players only. And then to wrap this up, the final team and headline of the week goes to the Chicago Bears, and that is, their headline is that the Bears are looking for alternative options to Soldier Field. Now, there is no confirmed plan that this move is going to happen. They're just in the exploration phase of this, looking to get a new stadium. They have a current lease with Soldier Field up until 2033, I believe, and that's according to Commissioner Rodger Goodell. He also says that they're looking at the long term, so they definitely want a solution that works for the Bears, that allows this to be a thing that goes away for a very long time, right? And this is sort of all, the early ugliness that we see with teams wanting new stadiums, and there's always these threats to move. So the interesting thing is that they last week, the Bears announced a bid to purchase property last week that's 35 miles out of Chicago. So you'd be taking the Chicago Bears out of downtown and moving them 35 miles away, which is quite a distance, to go from the heart of the city to somewhere else. And of course, everybody, there's both sides to the story. Like, some people are just saying, this isn't what their focus should be. It should be putting a good product on the field, beating the Green Bay Packers, beating the Vikings, beating the Lions, and, getting back to the playoffs. And then other people would be on the other side of the coin and be like, well, it's Soldier Field, it's really old. They'll look at all these new stadiums around the league. Minnesota Vikings is a good example in your own division, brand new stadium that's only a couple years old. So, I think as far as this story goes, my own personal opinion is that this is going to be a slow moving process. It's not something that anybody really needs to dwell on, at least for a number of years, I think. I mean, the property that they're bidding on isn't even something that they have access to yet, right? They're just bidding on a chance to survey it. So if I interpret what's going on correctly. So that is that situation. I would put a pin in that, put it on the back burner. It's not something to worry about just yet. I don't think there's any threat ever at all of the Chicago Bears moving out of the city of Chicago or the surrounding area. So that's going to do it for this video for the week, and that's going to do it for me for this week. I will see you again on Monday. Thank you for watching, tuning in to Weekly North News once again, and I will see you in the next one.